Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Silver Years. My name is DK, and I'm very happy to be here, and I humbly thank you for joining me. Today, I'd like to talk about that feeling you get when it seems the walls are closing in around you. I suppose some would call it claustrophobia, maybe. I've never been claustrophobic, but when I consider that the word claustrophobic means to be uncomfortably closed or hemmed in, then maybe that's the best word to describe what I mean, at least for now. The thing is, I'm not talking about feeling panic while being locked in a closet or some other confined space, which is what many associate with claustrophobia. No, I'm talking about being hemmed in by something invisible, an invisible confinement of sorts, something you can't really see, but you can feel. It's a feeling. And the feeling stems from being constricted by an invisible frequency fence or perimeter, like a frequency closet, maybe. To me, it feels like almost a frequency dome, actually, that is clamping down and closing in. Does that make sense? Maybe you feel it too. So, what am I talking about for those who haven't felt the constriction or confinement? Where do I start? Because what began as a slow creep is now undeniably coming to full boil. There's an old saying, maybe you've heard it: the frog is the last one to notice the water. It's about a frog being slowly boiled alive. Problem is, if a frog is suddenly dropped into a pot of boiling water, it'll jump out. But if the frog is put into tepid water, which is then brought slowly to a boil, the frog won't perceive the danger and it'll eventually be boiled to death as the temperature gradually rises. The story is often used as a metaphor for the inability or unwillingness of people to notice, react to, or even become aware of sinister and malicious threats that arise gradually rather than all of a sudden. From what I can see right now, we are the frogs, and we're being boiled alive inside of an invisible pot of low frequency radiation, draconian statutes and regulations, and the illusion of safety and convenience. We are being irradiated and made sick while trapped inside of a claustrophobic frequency perimeter described as benevolent technological advancements that are for our protection and benefit. And the dome is closing in around us as we fail to notice the encroachment. It's been happening slowly over the last 35 years or more. So we would accept and embrace it as advancement. David Icke would call this the totalitarian tiptoe, one little step at a time, so the masses get comfortable with each step before the next step is introduced, like turning the heat up on the frog's soon to be boiling pot, one step at a time, until there's no more pretense of baby steps. It's just full steam ahead. And today we're clearly at the full steam ahead part. And maybe you too can feel the walls closing in around you. This is the point where we need to open our eyes and truly observe our surroundings. Look around your realm. Notice what you yourself are buying and consuming, and what's being installed by the municipalities you live in, what's being installed on the highways you drive, in the parks and neighborhoods you frequent, and the other retail and public areas that you access. Look up and notice what is happening in the skies above you and its influence on the air you breathe and the water you drink. In a nutshell, don't be the frog. Notice it all and become aware of what is happening around you and within your environment. Become the observers of your world. And please note that I did not say save the world here. What's happening on the other side of the planet is not within your realm overall. It's not within any of our realms overall, unless we are specifically and directly impacted. This means keep it close to home, keep it real to you, keep it realistic. So let's start by taking a look at some of the basics I've noticed and expand upon that as we move along the timeline of this technological totalitarian tiptoe. What I'll be mentioning here is merely a brief short list of what I've observed around me over time, and I've no doubt you can extensively add to this with a little observation of your own. Where the frequency began for the masses during my lifetime is with the internet and the computers used to access it. This is the connection point, the intersection point for all things tech, and still is. This was the foundation for everything we see today as I perceive it. At the beginning, the internet was strictly phone line based. It was hardwired before it morphed into all things Ethernet. The World Wide Web was accessed through what began as standalone DOS based computers and phone lines. For those who remember, I remember. Windows type operating systems came later as landlines became devoted Ethernet lines and then evolved into what we now call Wi Fi or wireless fidelity, which are wireless network protocols, which are basically invisible frequency waves that wirelessly connect to the antenna of any network device through the air or ethers, as some would say. All computers today that are connected to the internet are connected to a centralized mainframe or hub through this Wi Fi interface. As the masses were acclimating to the concept of the World Wide Web and working with standalone computers at their workplace, along came the cell phone. I remember those big cell phones when they first came out because my first husband just had to have one. It was the size of a narrow shoebox. I don't know if you remember. They were huge. They they were few and far between, and the cost to buy one, let alone use it, was pretty steep at the time. This was the late 1980s. As the cell phone networks expanded, the phones became smaller and text messaging changed forever the way humans communicate, kind of like email. Today, our cell phones are fully functioning, web based, handheld computers with a camera, microphone, and recording capabilities, all connected to a centralized mainframe or hub through a Wi Fi interface. The internet modems we had at the beginning were hardwired and plugged directly into our computers or televisions with the cable or Ethernet cord until they weren't. Like our phone landlines once upon a time. All phone landlines were hardwired, not anymore. The modems we have now are essentially wireless, which again simply means that invisible frequency waves are constantly swirling around us as they're used throughout our homes to wirelessly connect to the antenna of any network device through the ethers. It's come to light over the years and been proven beyond a doubt that our computers and cell phones have been used since the beginning to spy on us, to gather data about us, to watch, listen, and record us, right alongside our internet based smart televisions that house hidden cameras and microphones. all for spying on us through the unauthorized use of the cameras and microphones within these devices that are all connected to a centralized mainframe or hub through the Wi Fi. At this point, phone landlines are practically obsolete since almost everyone has a cell phone and all businesses are computerized and operate using the internet. The Wi Fi frequencies used to manage this reality around us have engulfed everything and are everywhere. Has any of this been beneficial? Sure, some of it has been very beneficial. But we live in a highly polarized world where anything that can help us can also be weaponized against us. And it's on us to know the difference and make the best choices we can to mitigate abuse and harm. Aside from the spying, another major issue with the Wi Fi frequencies and cell phone devices is the emission of low frequency radiation. And this is definitely an issue. It can make us sick, very sick. The side effects from radiation poisoning can be easily researched. And the lithium batteries used in our cell phones not only strips the earth of irreplaceable rare earth minerals, but are prone to bursting into flames without cause. Not to mention that people are carrying these irradiating cell phones around on their unprotected bodies without care or concern, next to their heads at night while they sleep, in their pockets, in their bras, tucked into their waistbands, tucked snugly next to the reproductive areas of the body or next to the head, the brain, irradiating everything without protection. And I include all Bluetooth devices in this as well. These lithium batteries are also the same batteries used in electric cars, Tesla being a popular favorite these days. Electric cars that are supposed to save the earth without using fossil fuels while using rare earth minerals to make toxic batteries instead. Owners of these electric cars are now reporting serious health issues from being irradiated while driving because these vehicles are 100% Wi Fi linked and operated. And the volume of spontaneous car fires is growing by the day. Not to mention the fact that your car too is spying on you while reporting your driving behavior and now your biometrics to the so called authorities, regulators, and insurance companies. Okay, that to me feels claustrophobic. This is where we can feel those walls really closing in. Now, what I've mentioned so far is primarily what we have in our homes, right along with our Ring doorbell cameras, our smart appliances, and the highly controversial smart meters. It's now being suggested that those electric smart meters that the power companies insisted everyone have installed are now padding consumer bills to subsidize the cost of your local neighborhood data center. All this we've invited into our lives and now consider it normal without thought of the long term impact because the frequencies are invisible and what we can't see can't possibly harm us, right? But this is where the frequency fence I've been talking about is anchored in. This is where it begins in our homes, and awareness is key. Health issues due to an overabundance of low frequency radiation are indeed one point to consider. But now surveillance and loss of privacy and restriction of our personal freedoms is the other. This is where the frequency fence begins to clamp down. Did you notice how busy the telecom company trucks were during the first years of the 2020 scamdemic? I did. It became very clear to me very quickly that they were working overtime while everyone was on lockdown to install as many 5G and 6G towers as possible. The massive clusters on those tower structures located at just about every freeway off ramp doubled in size, and they're still expanding. And what about the addition at many streetlight intersections of those thick 6G telecom poles that are frequency emitting weapons no one's being honest about? Added right alongside the tracking cameras at every intersection. Have you looked at the LED street lights in your neighborhood lately? Check out the lights on your own street. Anymore, they have a little blue light on top and a built-in frequency weapon next to the LED. They're not streetlights designed for our safety and protection. Not really. They're streetlights designed to track and attack us from a central command center. And if you think this is paranoid thinking, then I encourage you to explore what's really in those streetlights in your neighborhood for yourself. Now we're hearing about the flock cameras being installed on our highways that read and report. And by the way, they're not just on our highways, they're putting them into neighborhoods amongst unsuspecting neighborhoods without warning. Okay, these flock cameras. And they read and report your license plate every time you drive by, along with the biometrics of every body in your vehicle, as well as recording everything, tracking, assessing, and documenting your movements and biometrics and conversations without your knowledge or permission. Then there's the drone surveillance used by insurance companies and law enforcement. Insurance companies are using drone inspections to cancel insurance policies, and law enforcement is using drones to catch criminals. There isn't one retail store or outlet that isn't covered in security cameras either. So shopping becomes a documented affair. And now we have the low frequency hum, amongst other things, emitted from the expansion of nature destroying data centers to consider, right alongside the mass construction of brutalistic apartment buildings that block out the sun like a prison block in preparation for 15-minute smart city confinement. Can you feel the walls closing in tighter now? All of this tech I've mentioned here works together. It all works together. It all interconnects using Wi-Fi interface and creates a fence of frequency steeped in synthetic AI and harmful radiation. And it's swirling around us 24/7 as we're convinced by those who are overseeing the tiptoe that it's for our safety and protection. I live in Southern California, and anyone can see that this frequency fence is a solid wall of surveillance weapons and radiation from Santa Barbara to San Diego. And why do you think there's so much nanotech and heavy metals in the chemtrails that poison our skies on a daily basis? There are, of course, several reasons for it, to be sure. But one reason I've come to know is that those heavy metal particles can be used to create holographic visions in the air using the frequencies from those 6G telecom poles installed at most intersections. Explore Project Bluebeam if you want to know more about that possibility. This has the power to make the frequency dome a visible reality. Now, let me say, just as a reminder, Like most of the things I discuss on my channel, this topic is extremely multi layered and multifaceted, which means that it's not just one thing that makes it all so. It's many layers of things over time that has gotten us to where we are today. What I'm trying to shed light on here are simply some of the significant factors, the lies, inconsistencies, and duplicities that I've observed when it comes to the polarizing technology that's being installed all around us as it's weaponized against us. All said, in the end, I feel it's our responsibility to get educated, to learn as much as we can about these frequencies and the resulting effects of radiation emissions on our physical health. And of course, what we can do on a personal level to mitigate our exposure through the choices we make. Again, awareness is key. And I realize this is a tough issue because of our dependence on the technology. And I don't in any way feel that technology is a detrimental thing unto itself, but it is being abused by those in power and not for our safety and protection. And the walls are closing in. So before I go, I'd like to leave you with a question to ponder, as I like to do. What technological surveillance have you observed in your realm, and how do you feel about it? Please leave your comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. So until next time, be well, choose love, and thank you. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.